Will everybody take a seat, please? The President is on the way. Ladies and gentlemen, the President of the Philippine Republic, President Aquino. Sit down. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. This is the annual luncheon with the President, and we certainly are very happy to have him with us despite his hectic schedule. We bid welcome to our friends in the media, members of the Foreign Correspondents Association, regular and associate members. We welcome ladies and gentlemen from the diplomatic corps, from the business and corporate sector, and from the civil society. Ladies and gentlemen, I introduce with pleasure the President of the Foreign Correspondents Association this year, Keiichi Tanaka-san.
His Excellency President Benigno Aquino III, members of the Cabinet, members of Diplomatic Corps, friends of FOCAP, members of FOCAP, a pleasant morning to all of you. It's a great pleasure to have the good President back with us here in FOCAP for this annual luncheon. We missed this traditional FOCAP journalism event for a number of years in the past administration. Last year, President Aquino revived this democratic tradition by agreeing to be with us despite the often inconvenient image that our Q&A events carry like a badge due to the tough and pointed questions our member journalists usually ask. This forum is an exercise of the vibrant democracy that has become synonymous with your family name, Mr. President. FOCAP witnessed and covered the dark and glorious episodes of the historic struggle that ushered back that democracy. And FOCAP has and will always stand as a vanguard to that democracy and freedom of the press. One of the greatest praise we've ever received came from your very own mother, President Corazon Aquino, who, in recognition of the continuous reportage by our members during the martial law years, once she said, "Thank God for FOCAP." This annual gathering is an important opportunity for the international media to discuss various issues with the President directly. In turn, it serves as a platform for the President to explain his advocacies and programs to the Filipino people and to the rest of the world. We expect a lively discussion with the President today on the burning issues of the day, including the Mindanao peace process and the framework agreement that you recently achieved. Also, diplomacy and national defense, national security, like Philippine strategy on the South China Sea, territorial disputes, relationship with China and the United States, recent divisions within the ASEAN over the South China Sea conflict, the improving economic indicators, the midterm elections next year, and your continuing fight against poverty and corruption. Even with this heavy agenda, I cannot promise you that there will be no questions about your love life. Again, thank you, Mr. President, for being with us again, and we hope to have a fruitful and frank discussion with you today. Thank you so much.
May we hear from Secretary Sonny Coloma, please.
Ladies and gentlemen, His Excellency Benigno S. Aquino III, President, Republic of the Philippines.
Thank you. Good morning. Please down. Excellencies of the Diplomatic Corps, Secretary Sonny Coloma, Ricky Carandang, Cesar Purisima, Monpaje, Greg Domingo, and of course Butchabad, Mr. Keiichi Tanaka, President of Foreign Correspondents Association of the Philippines, Mayor Fred Lim, officials and members of the FOCAP, fellow workers of government, honored guests, good morning. Just can't help but feel that Marichu will be the one asking the questions on love life. She laughed the hardest. Anyway, when I last had the opportunity to address you, I began by pointing out that the 5 years prior, when the President chose not to attend your annual forum. Now I speak before you for the second year in a row. We have indeed revived the tradition, and I am honored by this chance to engage the respected members of FOCAP, so that together we may elevate the level of public discourse in and about the Philippines. Around the world, the confidence of peoples in their governments has plunged. The ability of societies to reach consensus has been seriously compromised. The economies of the West have stagnated or entered into decline, applying pressure on the East. At a time of storm and stress, the Philippines stands out. Dynamic, reinvigorated, and optimistic. There is confidence born of success, and here you can take your pick as to how you measure the success. We expect not less than 6.1% GDP growth for the first half of the year. The stock market has hit 46 highs in my 27 months in office. Revenues of the government are up, investments are up, while the cost of borrowing is down. This turnaround in the Philippines is not a miracle, and it does not require rocket science to explain. It is born of a simple truth, a stark commitment to the basics, that this government has a mandate to serve, and it is public service. That is the end-all and be-all of government. The administration we replaced spent 9.5 years mortgaging the future to pay for its transactional approach to holding on to power. No higher consideration existed other than political convenience, on the principle that everyone had their price. It didn't matter if excessive amounts of rice were imported, only to rot in warehouses, while the National Food Authority's debt bloated from 12 billion pesos when the previous government took power to 177 billion pesos, which we inherited when we were handed the reins of government. It didn't matter if our people were left increasingly defenseless when it came to natural disasters or threats to national security. Billions of pesos in government funds are up to now unaccounted for in the autonomous region of Muslim Mindanao, while children languished in evacuation centers and walked along ghost roads towards ghost schools manned by ghost teachers. They shook hands with one hand while picking pockets with the other. That was the name of the game. The past 2 years, 3 months, and 17 days then have been spent on a twofold task. First, to correct that which is wrong, and this is a continuing effort to be sure. But few would disagree that the nation took a step in the right direction as it righted a glaring wrong in the judiciary. When our institutions insisted on accountability on the part of the former Chief Justice, mandated by the Constitution to declare all of his assets and liabilities, he found it justifiable to declare less than 2% of his cash assets in his SALN. Now we have a new Chief Justice appointed for what promises to be the second longest term in our judicial history, who has the opportunity to put in place the bold and far-reaching reforms our justice system requires. Another example of righting the wrongs is building up our capabilities. When once our people were at the mercy of natural calamities, now we have proven our capacity to foresee and respond appropriately at times of disaster. Our Weather Bureau, once the butt of jokes, is now earning accolades in its trailblazing use of the internet to disseminate information. It is saving lives by getting timely and accurate forecasts to our people. Now, our Weather Bureau, Pag-asa, is living up to its name. It is finally engendering hope. Both in terms of our police and armed forces, we are giving them the tools to do their job. In national defense alone, we have spent over 28 billion pesos for the AFP modernization program since we came into office, with another 75 billion poised to be programmed over the next 5 years once the necessary legislation is passed. Contrast this with the 33 billion pesos spent for modernization in the 15 years before our term. The framework agreement on the Bangsamoro, signed just last Monday between the government and the MILF, is also a way of righting the wrongs of injustice, exclusion, and fear prevalent in Muslim Mindanao. Endemic corruption led to grinding poverty, despair, and outrage. When the system becomes unresponsive to the needs and grievances of the people, violence sneaks its way into the menu of options. We seek to dismantle the structures that made this possible. There is now a palpable air of hope surrounding the framework agreement, and we continue to build consensus so that once dissonant voices may meld into one. Righting that which is wrong naturally leads to our second task, to empower our people, so that even as we institute reform, the present achievements will not merely become a temporary blip, but rather the start of an enduring mainstream of justice and progress. That is why we are investing in our people. The most basic of all freedoms is freedom from hunger. And when their daily needs are met, then our people will be empowered to insist on good governance, to vet the actions of their leaders, and to demand performance and not promises from those they elect to serve them. They will have the tools necessary to sustain the momentum of growth. Our people provided us with the opportunity to change the status quo. It is our duty to empower them so that positive change will continue even long after I am gone. We remain committed to investing in our people through education, through healthcare, through programs that will allow them to step through the doors of opportunity that are opening one by one in this new chapter of our history. The point of the K-12 program is to keep our people competitive in an increasingly globalized milieu. The point of universal health care is to keep our people healthy so that they may continue to drive our industries forward. The point of the Pantawid Pamilya program is to enable our people so they may lift themselves up from poverty. The be-all and end-all of every one of our government's programs is the people. To enhance their opportunities, to build a national architecture that will allow them to forge tangible realities from their own aspirations, and to empower them so that their energies are unleashed and harnessed for the betterment of the nation. That, and not political survival, is at the core of government. This is our strategy for success, and I do believe that as public confidence increases, it will lead to a permanent change in our country's prospects. We have already proven that revitalizing the former sick man of Asia is not an impossible task. All it takes is to go back to basics and recognize why government exists in the first place. Thank you. Good morning.
Thank you, Mr. President. Now we come to the heart of this annual get-together with the President. We interface with the President now, and members, there are two microphones there, and To save time, please stand so that we can ask the questions right away. And the sooner we end here, the sooner the President can go back to work. Yes, Halim, go ahead, please. And identify yourself, please, huh?
Yeah, I'm Charmaine De Gracias of NHK. Sir, if I may ask on the South China Sea issue, where do you see now the relations with China, our relations with China stand? And will you continue to take up this issue in international fora such as the upcoming ASEM and EAS? And of course, what's up now with the IT-Loss track that you have been saying before?
Sorry, what was the last part of the
The
question?
IT-Loss track, the International Tribunal on the Law of the Sea.
Sorry, can I start with the... and I'm having a little difficulty answering your question because we're giving the roadmap of how to deal with the problem and giving the other side a preview of everything that we will do, which will make the discussions that much harder. But can I just say this now? In terms of IT-Loss, it is still being studied by our consultants. There are several law firms that we are consulting, conversant, very well thought of and experts in international law to precisely chart the course of how we will utilize the legal procedures and international law to advance our claims. There is some degree of change in terms of a little bettering of the situation. And I have to emphasize a little bettering of the situation compared to where it was at the height of the tensions. But we're still a long way off from really getting back to where it was. We are still hoping that we will resolve this amicably, that reasonable voices will prevail, and that both sides are really geared towards arriving at a solution that will satisfy not just the bilateral concerns, but more importantly, I guess, the multilateral concerns affecting this issue.
So will you take it up in ASEM or in the upcoming EAS in Cambodia?
Well, there is an ongoing effort to come up with a consensus. It has 6 points, spearheaded by the Foreign Minister of Indonesia, and we are supporting the same.
What about the meeting with Wen Jiabao in East Asia Summit, in the sidelines of East Asia? Would you seek a meeting with him?
There is no agreement to have a meeting on the sidelines right
Sir,
at this point.
uninterrogated.
We're going to New Zealand and Australia, and those are the meetings that we are setting up.
Yeah, since you've mentioned Australia, I'll just one quick follow-up. Just on Australia, because you are going to Australia, we now have a status of visiting forces agreement with Australia. What role do you really see Australia will be playing in regional security, and what kind of engagement or partnership do you want the Philippines to have with Australia? Sorry.
Well, there is we offered Australia actually a strategic partnership. We only have 2 strategic partnerships, one with the United States of America and the other with Japan. We're offering the third to Australia. They're presently studying it. But even in the absence of that, they're already helping us with the Coast Watch system. There is various trainings being conducted by the military and security forces with our own personnel in the form of scholarships, enrollment in the various institutions. So we share the same values. We're both democracies. We have been normally on the same side of issues that have confronted our respective peoples since at least World War II, the Korean War, the Vietnam War. We face the same challenges, be it terrorism, global climate change, relationships with the superpower in the neighborhood. So all of this lends to shared values, in a sense, shared background, and therefore it promotes closer, and should promote closer cooperation between our peoples. Thank you.
Thank you. Dario.
Mr. President, my name is Dario of Kyodo News, Japanese news agency. Prime Minister Najib, during his speech during the signing in Malacanang, mentioned something about Sabah, the Sabah issue. I was just wondering if the Sabah issue, in what was brought up during your bilateral meeting with him, and in what context was it discussed?
Well, majority of the discussion had to deal with the MILF. Then the other aspects of ensuring that all of the other stakeholders will be brought in a consensus. Sabah was talked of almost fleetingly. So there were no substantial discussions with regards to Sabah.
So the territorial dispute on Sabah was never
It will not, it is dormant at this point in time unless you inflame it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Go ahead.
Sir, good morning. I'm Celerina Monte from the Daily Manila Shimbun. Sir, congratulations for the framework agreement with the MILF. Sir, how far or up to what extent could the government, your administration, could give way for the power and wealth sharing to MILF, with the MILF?
In power, and well, power I think is clearly defined already. We're already in the nuances stage. You know? For instance, in territorial waters, municipal waters extend up to about 15 kilometers from the coastline. They want, some say, beyond the 15-kilometer baseline. That affects not just what is now the arm, no, but other areas within the country. So that is subject to further negotiations when we tackle the details in the annex. In wealth sharing, there will be a balance, no, between their needs and, of course, at the onset, it will be the national government that will be funding a lot of the activities that they would be undertaking. So I cannot give you specific percentages right now, but the concept is, in the same token that the rest of the country will be helping them through this transition, perhaps we can also expect them to help the rest of the country once they have their feet firmly planted on the ground. So I think there is a broad consensus of what these percentages are, but we will have to wait until the final details which will exist in the annexes of the agreement.
But the MILF will get the bigger share, sir?
Yeah, as I said, no, let us finish the details before I announce it.
Sir, another thing, regarding the NPA, how optimistic are you that you could also sign peace agreement with the communist rebels?
Well, the other day I was told that they are renewing dialogue with us. Am I as optimistic? I tend to be pessimistic in the sense of preparing for the worst and hoping for the best. No? In this case, I will not change that venue. But there is some reason to believe that we are moving along we're moving forward rather, in terms of the dialogue and the aim of, the efforts that we're trying to achieve settlement also with the CPP and PNDF. But at this point in time, I cannot tell you that there is a fixed date already when we will announce anything. We're moving forward where it was previously, it had stagnated. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. President. Go ahead.
Good morning, Mr. President. Benigno Aquino from China Radio International. The Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas reported that foreign direct investment inflows to the Philippines between January to August this year amounted to over $1 billion. However, that amount reached Thailand in January alone. So Vietnam, despite the downturn, remains optimistic they'll get $8 billion before year end. May we have your projections and probably the reasons why we failed to attract more FDIs?
Well, there is a question exactly of our reporting. In Secretary Greg Domingo always brings this up, no? That it seems that what we do report versus the actual investments seem to not correlate. No? There seems to be a significant error. But be that as it may I say that if the other countries are way ahead of us in terms of foreign direct investment, it's just merely a continuation of there being more ahead of us in effecting the necessary changes, no, that led them to be attractive to begin with, specifically for Thailand. No? Now, I think it is, if you could only have been a party to all of the foreign businessmen as well as local businessmen that have been paying courtesy calls on us and how bullish they are on our country, then I think it is not too shabby a performance for the 2 years that they have suddenly decided to take a second look at us. But be that as it may, the figure that is cited, there is some question which NEDA is trying to address in terms of actually and accurately collecting the data with regard specifically to foreign direct investment.
Yes, Mr. President, do you have any policy about electric power rates? Because both foreign and local businessmen have been complaining that we're second to Japan.
Yeah, I think if I mentioned it publicly from the time I was running even for the Senate, and especially after I assumed office, there are two tracks. First is, and that which we are, I think, have accomplished substantially, increase the power supply. No? and increase the power supply everywhere, but most importantly for Mindanao, which is a very, very small surplus or reserve. After you have that adequate supply, then the feasibility of competition happening in the spot market, which will bring down the prices more reasonably, becomes a reality. We're waiting for certain actions from the ERC to have the full implementation of that competitive spot market.
Yes. One last point, Mr. President, if you may. What specific orders have you given law enforcement agencies to rid the country of private armed groups, considering the coming elections in May 2013? Thank you.
Thank you for asking that question. We've been on a program to dismantle these private armed groups, I think not less than 4 months, meaning that was the time that they actually went on operations to dismantle. I don't have the figures right now for how many groups have been dismantled or how many people have been arrested. But suffice to say that it's an ongoing effort. There's a validation of the order of battle, and I think not a week goes by without a report on specific armed groups that have already been dismantled. A lot of them were in, I'm talking on the top of my head, but first reports were both in the Cordillera and in Central Luzon.
Thank you very much, Mr. President.
Yes, Simon.
Good morning, Mr. President. I'm Simone Orendine. I'm here for Voice of America. This is a follow-up to an earlier question. You had said that there's some degree of change and a little bettering of the situation with China. Can you please be a little more specific about that and what your concern is with trying to make that a bigger bettering?
Well, we recognize the fact that they're undergoing a transition, which hopefully will happen by the end of November, where there hopefully will be less nationalistic pressures on whoever the leadership will be. But the little warming up is that they've initiated dialogue with us, initially at Vladivostok, but that didn't push through, but subsequently at the China ASEAN Expo. However, the messages were practically the same, although there were some differences. That's why I said that there seems to be very gradual warming up. I want to be very precise. So we are hopeful that this gradual warming up will be really warmed up by the time of the transition. So we're taking a wait-and-see attitude also.
Is there any, this is kind of a difficult question, but it seems in these kinds of territorial disputes, countries will stick to what their line is and the other one will do the same, sounding kind of like you're both having still your same messages. How do you see a situation like this changing and progressing forward?
Well, if we were to return to what it was before the conflict on Bajo de Masinloc happened, then that is a very significant improvement. That actually is a modus vivendi arrived at by, I guess, by custom and by implicit agreement, although there were no formal agreements to the same. But we go back to their statements about adhering to international law, which is also the position we have adopted from the very beginning. And specifically, we both mentioned UNCLOS, and we're both signatories to UNCLOS and the various other treaties. So we recognize the political dimension, especially for nations of saving face. But at the end of the day, we all are committed to improving the lot of our people, and that will not happen in a situation or an atmosphere that is tense and uncertain.
And one other question, kind of not
We'll
related.
get back to you if you have another question.
Okay, sure. Okay.
We'll get back to you. Good. Ellen?
Good morning, Mr. President. Sir, regarding again the South China Sea.
Identify yourself, please.
Sir, in the past days, with the event about Senator Trillanes, it seems that the government is jeering or favoring bilateral talks with China instead of...
That is not correct. In bilateral,
So, sir,
can be a
please
component,
explain.
but multilateral is the approach. The problem is multilateral. In ASEAN alone, there are 4 countries of the 10 who are claimants to the Spratleys group. So how can how can one of the 4 talk with China and bind the other 3?
So you're still stressing multilateral talks with China.
Multilateral problem only gets addressed if the parties if the format is multilateral and binds everybody. Otherwise, you settle a portion of the problem and you retain the rest of the problem.
Sir, but how about the fact that China is still there in Bajo de Masinloc? How about the fact that Chinese ships are still there? How are you approaching this problem, this lingering problem?
They left, they came back, they left, and we also believe in freedom of navigation. But the whole point of the exercise is, from the start, has been from our end, not to escalate the conflict, but to de-escalate it. But at some point in time, we do have to defend and we are defending our interests now, but we might have to defend it more vigorously. And by that, I mean, we take it up in the international fora, the adjudicating tribunals that are already stated under international law.
Sir, how about our ships? Will we return our ships there in Bajo de Masinloc?
Again, I'm really not comfortable by telegraphing our intentions to the other side. I think you can understand that.
Sir, thank you.
Okay, Ellen, thank you.